Is it my turn? Is it my turn to kick us off?
Yeah, go for it.
Oh crap! Welcome back to the Nick and Justin show for week episode number 3.
Yes,
Dang,
sir.
it's flying right now. We're stacking these up.
Oh, definitely. I mean, we got that goal. You have to get 21 episodes to be in the top 90% of any podcast ever created. So 3 out of 21 minimum.
That number's still been sticking in my head because every time I want to just be complacent, like I'll like say, dude, I'm tired. Can I just game tonight? I was like, no, we got to get 21. That is the goal.
I'm confident. I'm confident. It's just one of those things. Like in 21 is less than half a year. So it's good.
It's a Yeah, less than half the year. It's like, wait, can I do my math right? Wait, that's 42, not 52. 21 is
Let's keep
42.
going. Obviously, we're not being very smart right now. Like, all
Hey,
right.
we had a long day.
Yeah, we did. All right, cool. What are your topics this time? And then I'll give you my
Ooh.
three, and then we'll just dive into them.
Ooh, I got two. Mine was like this whole entire week was just a grind. So it was consistency of working on a side project and how hard it is. And I forget how hard it is to work a side job or a side hustle when you're doing your full-time like job. It is freaking hard and I haven't done this in a long time. So like conditioning wise, I am not used to it anymore.
Okay.
So that was topic one, and then got me on a whole little thing. I shared it with you within the week with Matt Damon in an interview with Ben Affleck that talking about just like bouncing off ideas and everything else. So it's like all mixing in so we could hit that subject. And the second one was I saw a news article like really on the Google when you're on your phone was 19 countries would want to join BRICS on CNN, I believe that was the outlet.
Oh, that's spicy. Okay.
And then I was like, what the hell is BRICS again? And how does this work? So I used ChatGTP just to teach myself, like, one, be familiar and kind of use it now in a historical like research. And I know they spit out inaccurate information. They even say on the very bottom, but to fact check it, but just to get a general Wikipedia type of sense knowledge, that's what I used. And it was very interesting. So we could talk about that as well.
So I have a number of them. Well, I'll let you kind of
Okay.
pick and choose them too. Um, Before I dive into them, quick update. Remember how we were talking a couple episodes ago about how Coachella was on YouTube?
Yes.
For all of those that are listening, because I know you don't care, Stagecoach was live streamed, okay, and it was on Amazon Prime. So I definitely watched it this past weekend and saved myself, $400, which was great. Okay. Anyways, so
You lazy piece of shit.
dude, yeah, I was actually pretty happy about it, and also happy because some of those who performed didn't meet expectations. So save some
Oh,
money on
that's the
that side
worst
too.
one. That is the worst one where you're like, oh,
It's okay. It would have been worse
man.
if I was there in 80-degree heat in the middle of a desert. Okay,
Yeah, I
so
heard
okay,
friends.
here's my topics.
Okay, go.
So one thing could be we click back and we talk a little bit about how I really screwed up the renovation budget for the house that I bought.
Mm-hmm.
We could talk about, I mean, in the news, my old team over at Clubhouse got laid off during their layoffs. So we could talk about layoffs and recalibrating yourself coming out of layoffs. And then there's a news article that I saw, which is the third one, where there's a state in the US that wants to ban participation trophies.
Kind of want to start the participation trophies because I freaking hate them, to be quite honest.
Okay. All right.
I freaking do. I just like I'm all for hard work and like, oh, good job, but like give them a false sense of freaking security, dude. I'm sorry. I'm just not like that's
Yeah.
kind of the old school in me. Like I'm always nurture. I'm a very supportive, always nurturing, regardless, good or bad. Before we start on this, sorry, you hit a button for me.
I mean, we're gonna start with this topic. So here, let me give you the rundown.
So
Okay.
okay, give me the
So
rundown.
this was published on April 3rd. The title of it is North Carolina seeks to ban participation trophies for children. So here's the context to it. Three senators in North Carolina have introduced a bill into the local legislature that would ban participation trophies for children. Youth sports or other youth recreation activities operated under the authority of a local government shall not include awards for participants based solely on their participation in sport or other activities. So it's not like a pure ban because they can't control every sport that
Mm-hmm.
happens, but anything that's under the local government, like you either win or you lose. That's it.
Yeah. I miss that, to be honest. Okay, so one, we never grew up participation trophies.
I
It's
mean, I
either
I did a little bit. I
you
wasn't
did,
good, but
I
I
did not. You wait, are you a favor of participation trophies?
oh hell no.
Oh, I thought you said you were. Okay.
No, I received them as a child, but like definitely you're either first or you're last. There's yeah.
No, for me it was, oh my goodness. I can see why they were made because people, but so I'm gonna go back to one of our alumni always said this, but good enough is the enemy of great. And if you're trying to be great or really proficient in what you're doing, falsely celebrating something, saying you're doing well in is a lot is lying to them. You're doing them a disservice just because you're telling them that they're already proficient in what they're doing, giving them an award, but you're not pushing the next level of development on those internal conversations on how to develop a skill set, those fine-tuned details you need to figure out. It's like I said way back, I think we talked about it. We talked about so much stuff. I'm not sure if it hit the pod yet, but how to like imagine it's a folder, just two folders, and you just kind of go like, okay, soccer. Then you kind of zoom in, then you go like you double click, and it's three positions. You have def defense, midfielders, strikers. Then you can click on that, like, okay, what's a striker do? You talk about how many they can strike the ball, how they're gonna kick. Okay, if I do a free kick, how are you gonna kick it? How are you gonna get like a spin on it? How are you gonna get like a knuckleball type of stuff? Like you can fine tune details, but you just say, oh, you're good enough, like good job. Okay, cool. There's no need for me to get it. That's just my thought process on things. So I was never received participation trophies, but I also had really great to coaches and my parents and brothers like would just say like, "Hey, you got this." Like regardless of what it was. So I was still fearless, and I was like, "Dang!" Like I was blessed. I was really blessed to have that. And I know a lot of people don't have that support, and that's why I probably see why it was developed. And that it could be a double-edged sword, but overall, I'm not a fan of participation trophies. So yes, that is my 2 cents.
I completely agree with you. I think we're in the same boat here. I think if the objective of what you're doing is to win, then you should receive an award, right? Or whatever that reward is if you win. If you don't win, that doesn't
Hmm.
mean that you can't be, like you said, encouraged that you tried well or tried your best. Like, all of that is not dependent on the fact that you get a participation trophy or not. And I think that's part of the piece that you like learn some grit, right? Like the
Hmm.
most
Hmm.
every time that we took an L, like I remember playing football, wrestling, soccer. I mean, pick your sport. When you lose is when you learn the most.
Right.
That's when you
100%.
feel that pain. I mean, at times I've cried. I remember especially like when you're in that championship and it's like you against that one team that like are rivals and you take that L, like it hurts. It hurts everybody on that team. But that's that stuff that like you build inside of where when something doesn't go your way, you're
Hmm.
not going to get something as like a consolation prize. And you're going to have to reflect on yourself of like, okay, well, what am I going to do different next time to make sure I don't feel that way again? And
Hmm.
yeah, I losing I think has been in a way devalued in our society at least today where I'm kind of in favor of this. Like I mean, if I said this once and this could be completely different once I actually have my first child, but if my child played on a sport and got a participation trophy, I'm taking the trophy from them.
Yeah.
Like they're not going to actually receive it. And they could question me why I took it, but I'll let the kid know. I'm like, you can get a trophy when you win. I support you. We can help break down what you did wrong, but there's no no reward for not winning when the objective is to win.
Yeah. I think, and outside of winning and losing, like it builds that internal callus. So that grit you refer to when when you get kicked down, even in a controlled environment, by control I mean sports, you're building like how can I stand back up and knowing that I'm not just gonna get out of it or be celebrated by it. Because in life, you can get on the other topic with like your clubhouse topic, they get fired. What are these small little increments of like pain in a controlled setting or hurt or internal like doubt? If that happens, then holy crap, what do I do now? Who am I? How am I going to persevere through this? How can I push myself out of this rut to go through it? And when you give that, when I see the participation trophy, again, it's more I'm good enough, but also says like I'm fine. I don't need to work on it. I'm okay enough. And I think that to me, that does not have the grit to it. That prevents like a little bit now, like, oh, this happened to me because, and then you can go on the list of things, instead of saying it did happen to me, and what can I do about it?
I think maybe our perspective is because we both played sports that
Mm-hmm.
we've we've developed like a perspective on it. I mean, all my participation trophies, like, kind of got them, but mostly just threw them away. The ones that actually meant something were the ones that you're like, this is when we won, right? Like
Yeah.
you have a
This is when I got
participation
something
trophy
out of
that's
it.
there. No one cares about that. I mean, hell, I didn't even care about it unless it was a cool ass trophy. Like, I didn't care. I was like, no, let me tell you about this other one where there's a story where I got a concussion on the journey of getting this damn thing, you know? Do you want to dovetail that into the clubhouse layoffs just because
Yeah,
it
I was
has
about
that
to,
identity
you read
piece?
you read my mind. Wait.
Okay. So I mean, Clubhouse isn't the only one that had, layoffs. Layoffs have just been a
Just
trend in the media recently, but this
correct.
past week there's another number of companies. Dropbox, was another big one. I think Snap had some, but this one kind of hit differently just because there was so many of my close friends
Hmm.
that were affected, right? And actually reflecting on it, if I was still there, I would have completely have been affected by these. Because it was exactly the team that I was on. So I could definitely see that happening as well. And I think one thing as I was like talking to different, not just people from Clubhouse, because like some of the other friends that were at some of these other companies that also got laid off that we started talking to. And it made me think,
The themes are similar pretty much.
yeah, the themes are completely similar. What would you do if you got laid off? Like, I know you're in like a pretty safe, cushy position, but
Ish.
tomorrow
It's cush
you got the
safe-ish.
call. Yeah, tomorrow you get a call. What is your action plan if you got laid off?
Ooh. Okay, I'm gonna tell you a story.
Okay.
I don't think I told you. So again, my part-time job, I mentioned this when I first job out, my one of my first jobs out of college, again, was a part-time athletic training job. It was a contract through a PT clinic that was I was outreaching to a high school. So that's how the contract worked. So I worked about August to December, first week of the year. So I called in the office like, "Hey Justin, we just need a meeting." I'm like, "Oh crap, did I do something wrong?" I'm a pretty likable guy, and I didn't mess things up as my first year that bad. I couldn't, right? And they're like, "Hey, dude, the school just informed me that they don't have money for a contract. So as of right now, you have to cease operations. Like you can't go back to the high school." And this is my first job, and this is when the kind of going back to the grit thing. This is what I'm very grateful for. I just said, "I get it. It is what it is. It sucks. I'll figure it out." And that phrase saves my life so many times. I'm very grateful again on I was able to create networks so I could pick up some odd end jobs to float, but I knew who I was and I knew this job didn't define me. So, but the scary aspect, I had bills to pay, and I'll say I'll figure it out. I had one of my lull days. I'm having a bad day. I just turn off for a day, and I said tomorrow's a new day. It's a reset. This is my reset. freaking go get some ice cream. And yeah, I was like, all right, I'll stop, reassess, and then back at it tomorrow, and then I'll figure it out. So that was the grit that came in. Like it was, well, I was an offensive lineman in high school, and what gets me through this like hard times, it was my coach would always say, you can't go around it, you have to go through it. And that was it. And anything that happened hard in my life, I just went through. There's no ways around it. So identity wise, I knew who I was in the sense of a creator, a soon to be podcaster. So I was like, all right, I have some time. Let's just podcast. That's how it started. And yeah, I can't say I can't define my identity. I just knew that I was not tied to a job during that time.
What'd you
Now I
do to
felt
get
like I
yourself
was
out of everything though? So like you weren't tied to it, but like what were your like three steps that like got you back up and going?
assessing the problem. Okay, I need money. How am I gonna get money? Then you just break down, you start with small steps. All right, who do I know in my network? I could have odd jobs. I have skills. Okay, what are my skills? It just can't be a global thing of like, hey, I am only tied to this one title. For me, it was assessing my skills and what was I strong at. So what I did was, all right, went back to my boss, like, hey, Ross, your website needs help. Let me try to figure some stuff out. Can I do that? And then it was small, like, yeah, sure. But it gave me like a small minimum, like wage, at least a little bit. All right, I have some there. All right, there's some doc's office. Hey, doc, can you like, do you need help on this time? Like, yeah, we got you. Like, we just have to like 1 to 2 days. I'm like, oh crap, okay. Then you just accumulate hours. And I'm like, all right, I'm cool. But that's how I saw. Like, I never developed an identity. I created skill sets that surrounded this sense of job. It was those small skill sets that made me survive.
How long did it take you from the time that they pulled the contract to the time that you came up with like identifying your skills and getting your first gig?
2 weeks.
Okay.
I had nothing else to do. I got laid off.
Yeah, but I mean, did it take some time to like go through that like journey
Yeah,
and
it took me too much to start executing. Like it took me 2 weeks to get the ball rolling, and but it was one of those things you just had to sit down and think and contemplate. Revert back to again the participation trophies that you have to sit down and think of what went wrong. That's where it goes. You have to accept that it went wrong. And if you can't address the problem, you can't find a solution. So I just went to work and that was it.
I mean it's a real ass like experience of where
Hmm.
you got knocked down at the knees and you had to figure out how to get the next gig. I mean the things that I took out of that,
Yeah, what about you?
you totally answered my question. Like I was curious on what would be your playbook, and your playbook is definitely different than where my head was going.
Mm,
I think there's a range, right? I think it depends on
hmm.
what their background is. I think there's individuals that might be a little bit more urgent in the way that they're making decisions because I don't know, maybe financial things, right? The first thing that typically comes up is financial constraints of some sort. And then there's some other ones that I think that it's not as top of mind where they need to get something. So they're really diving into side projects, right? Like it's back to that statement that you said earlier about is it happening to me or is it happening for me?
Hmm.
And I think in some of the individuals that I connected with, it's happening for them. It's giving them time to pursue new things. And, wherever that might come from in the coming months, it could be totally a huge upside. I mean, at minimum, especially those that are actually working on a project, in their next interview, they could talk about this project or something that they built, or, they're all working with like AI APIs and things like that. So they're going to have some project that's leveraging new tech, and it's obviously the hottest tech right now, where they're like, look what I built when I was having some downtime. Right. Um, but one thing that I was for one of the individuals that I was contacting, right? They were a little bit more on the urgent side. And
Mm,
I think they went straight into like, okay, I'm going to start throwing my resume out and applying. But there's a few other things that were that was missing for that to actually be effective. Because if you look at everyone that got laid off right now, everyone's just throwing out their resume, right? Like everyone's just going and clicking LinkedIn and things like that. And there's three main things that I think that I kind of identified that could help separate some people from the pack, especially because like right now we're doing hiring, right? Like our team is hiring people. So I get all these inbounds
mm-hmm,
all the time and I see certain things that I'm just like, next, without even contacting them, right?
mm-hmm,
So the first thing is polish up your resume and your LinkedIn. And I think resume is one thing, making sure you have all the right structure, things like that.
mm-hmm,
Obviously, you can get resources on that. The second part, I think, is LinkedIn, especially if you're reaching out to these hiring managers on LinkedIn. If the first thing a hiring manager is seeing when they click your LinkedIn after you send that message is a blank LinkedIn page, that's not a good look because
not a
in
good thing.
most cases, they didn't send their resume. And so all I'm seeing is like maybe their name and their company name and their position. And I'm just like, yeah, pass, right?
Like I'm
The
good.
completely. So, step one, polish up your stuff, especially if you're reaching out to people because they're going to see that. I think step two is now differentiate yourself. So, if someone does send me something that looks a little bit interesting, the next
Mm-hmm,
question that I ask them is, do you have a portfolio or a website that I can see something that you've worked on? And I think that right there sometimes causes individuals to pause a little bit because they're like, hey, the projects I was working on at work, there's like NDAs or it's confidential, things like that. But if people are laid off and they have time to do some stuff, or even for with the work that they were working on, just anonymize the information, but like put something together that now leans towards like what you can do more than someone else that has the same exact description in their resume, right? So that I would say that's
yeah.
like level two, because when I'm getting these in mails on LinkedIn, if they send that with it, I'm like, ooh, this is actually kind of interesting now.
Yeah, I can vibe with this. Like it kind of also shows they took action.
Absolutely, right? And especially because we're in the startup game, like
You have to take action.
there's so many people that can make a pretty PowerPoint, but that's just one thing. I need to be able to know that this person can actually execute the pretty PowerPoint like ideas that they had just sent me. And there's only a few ways you could actually gauge the ability that someone can actually execute against something, especially in a really, really short time frame. And then the last piece is use headhunters. Like contact every headhunter, give them your resume and like let them work for you. Cause while you're going out and trying to find the full-time job, if push comes to shove, you're at the end of your like reserve cash in your bank, pick up a
Mm-hmm.
damn contract that one of these headhunters throw your way, because that's better than trying to do it all on your own, coming out with zeros all across the board, and then now you're in a situation where you have no options like at all, and you're out of cash. So I don't know. Those are like three quick things that I like told. He's one of our mutual friends.
Hold on. So, all right. With that, with the layoffs, also, how do you prepare yourself financially? Because you taught me how to do it, so I kind of want to hear you on like the show to say how do you prepare yourself financially if that situation happened
How would they do it on
to
the
you?
show, or how I
Now,
would
how do
do it
you do it?
personally?
How would you do it?
Well,
Because you taught me some stuff, so that's why.
yeah,
Sensei.
no, I mean, so like for me, I have my checking account that basically has 2 to 3 months of whatever my expenses are, right? So if let's say it's $4,000, there's $12,000 sitting in that account. Then in the savings account, probably have another 2 or 3 months, and that
Mm-hmm.
savings account is a high yield savings account. And then everything else outside that is basically just in a safe like index fund of some way. So it's probably just tracking against like S&P 500. And it's, I mean, so if I got laid off, I would have 6 months roughly of
Hmm.
runway. Like that's basically my emergency fund or however you want to name it. But it's 6 months of cash that's quickly accessible. And then the rest of everything else is in the stock market, right? So if anything is beyond 6 months, then I'll, start to sell off and bring some of that cash forward. But I'm also I'm pretty confident that I could go and get something within 6 months. And
Yeah.
that's how it helped me determine that, that buffer could be 6 months. I have some friends, it's 4 months. I have some friends that it's basically like, you know, maybe 8 months, 9 months. So I think everyone has their own individual tolerance of where they want to be in terms of like that cushion. But yeah, that's how I have mine structured.
So I'm
I,
gonna nitpick on two of yours.
sure.
How do you define your monthly expenses? Just kind of going on just
Mm-hmm.
as a educational standpoint. How do you map that out to even say I have enough for a month? So what are your line items and things to consider?
Yeah. So I have a mortgage. So it's my mortgage plus property insurance, utilities, homeowners insurance, all of that kind of stuff. It'll be that plus I'm almost done paying off my car. So car payment plus car insurance. It's any of the needs, right? So I'll have
Hmm.
a certain amount allocated for food, and mostly that's for like groceries, where I have it roughly around like $100 a week. I rarely go out to eat, so I only have like a going out budget of like maybe 50 or $100 a week. And I consider like my phone a necessity of life just because of the utility that comes with it. So my phone plan, because I'm not on a payment plan for my phone, so the phone plan would be incorporated as well. And I'm trying to think if there's like any other things that typically people miss. So like I don't have any minimum payments on credit cards or anything like that. So I don't have to worry about any of that as part of
Gas?
that core function. Oh, that's a good point. So gas would be rolled up into car payment plus, car insurance. I think
Yeah, so base
that's
yeah, all of them. Like same thing for me.
yeah, I think it's all, I mean, it's basically housing, whatever's attached to housing, transportation, whatever's attached to transportation, food, whatever it's kind of attached for food, whatever that blend looks like between eating out or
Hmm.
eating in. And then, I mean, I'm not a big shopper, so I don't need to like, I mean, and shopping is not a need, right? Like if you lost your
No.
job, you should not be going out and buying $300 Arc'teryx freaking jackets, right? Like, so in terms of like need, something over my head, something to get me from point A to point B, something to fill my belly, and
Hmm.
basically that number times however months I'm looking for as my reserve.
Mm. And then the last nitpick is how do you save like how do you allocate your savings to towards that fund? You know what I mean? Like, you can't just put a large sum of it. That's how people like, oh, I wish I can save up for that. Like, no, it's like putting pennies in a piggy bank. So how would you start saving? Because I never actually asked you that, and I'm kind of
Like
curious
how did
myself.
I get started before having that money sitting there?
Yes, yes. Then you can stop allocating to that fund once it's fully filled to hit your need, and then you can diverge away.
Yeah, I think so. I started this pretty relentlessly the year I got out of college. So coming
Hmm.
out of college, I think it was like 18,000 in student loan debt. Salary at the time was around 60K. And so I was looking to cut expenses as much as possible so I could burn down that student loan debt. And so that included, getting roommates, right? I think a lot of people have the option to getting your own thing, but getting roommates, saving like the biggest expense that most individuals have is housing and living, right? It's the largest fixed expense on anyone's budget. So getting that number down as low as possible. At the time, the car I had, there was no car payment. Um, Shopped at Costco for food, right? Like just basically, I lived like I was still in college for the next year outside of college. But obviously, I had a full time job, and that created a pretty big buffer between expenses and what I'm bringing in coming into the home. After the first year, right, got my annual bonus, um, put that all away, right? I think a lot of people go and spend it, but Like you kind of got to balance, forecasting that out. So both the bonus and the raise, like I didn't acknowledge the raise. So that amount went into savings or whatever. And then the bonus went into savings. And then there was that gap between um, expenses and what I made. And, being in the San Francisco Bay Area at the time, everything's freaking expensive there. So
Yes, I'm
like
barely
just
saving.
being
So
really, really conscious around that.
yeah. So for me to save, there's two ways to do it. And again, if whatever is left over, which is unfortunate. So just going off the budget, and by budget I mean is was it 50 30 20
Mm-hmm.
rule?
Yep.
For mine, unfortunately, goes into like 65 needs. So 50 30 20 is 50% of your salary should be going to, of your monthly salary, whatever, of your monthly salary. 50% going to your needs, 30% going to your wants, 20% going to your savings. Again, back to living in the Bay Area, it's more for me, it's about 7% of my savings and um 30% in majority, and now I'm lost. But most of my stuff is going into just making sure I have a roof over my head and food in my belly. But yeah, one strategy for me is just put something. Something's better than nothing. And once me and my girlfriend move in, it'll open up my paycheck a lot more. Then I can say I I mapped it out and I can do a full 20%. So my thought process was I want to get it done within a year or 2 years. And what does that time look like? And how much money do I need to put into it to be done in the next 2 years to make sure I can get this done, not compromising anything else in my budget. So yeah, that's how. There's two ways that I would do it. Is that something's better than nothing, then two, working backwards and figuring out your monthly to put it in if you have it.
What do you think about being super ruthless in trying to achieve that versus, I work hard. I should be able to treat myself along the way.
I'm gonna go back to the thing I said. Sacrifice the person you want, person you are today, for the person you want to become.
So you'd be just super, super ruthless with it.
Yeah, and I'm also simple. There's nothing wrong with it. Um, I don't go out to parties or raves or anything else. Do eat out, but I do travel a lot, but I also allocate my savings towards travel. So I say it this way, if I mess up, I don't get to travel. And that's my award. And people say, you're so lucky traveling. Well, I map out my trips. We already planned Tanzania for February 2024. That's in 10 months, and we scheduled it like 11 months ago.
Yep.
And yeah. Also, did you get your flight, by the way?
Yes, I got my flight.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, peasant.
No, no, I got my flight. It's not like your flight, but I'm also
It's the
still
same.
looking.
Oh, okay. Okay. Same flight though?
Only going into Tanzania. We meet in
Oh,
Ethiopia.
oh, okay. Shame.
Okay, context for everybody because this is where he's freaking going with this. We're both really into point hacking with credit cards. And so we were both looking to get flights to Tanzania from the West Coast. We were going to book with points on business class all the way through. I found one. He booked it. It was the last one. And so he's going business class the entire way. I
Thank you
will
for
be
doing all the
writing,
research.
yes, and I will be writing partial coach for a decent amount of it, honestly, on that trip. So
Yeah. But I digress. We plan our stuff way in advance.
the shit will come back on you, dude. Watch.
It really will. It really will. But again, being ruthless in that, like, I think my most reward is that instead of eating clean, I'll go to Jack in the Box. Sounds horrible, but yeah, like that's I'm a simple individual, man.
Yeah, no, I mean it
So
makes
yeah.
sense. Like being super, super ruthless. I don't know if I could be as ruthless as I was at this age versus when I was like 22.
Hmm.
It's a lot harder, I think, now, which also means that like
Bougie
if
now.
you're in a situation of doing it like at this age, you gotta take it that much more seriously. Like
Yeah.
actually seriously.
There's not much room for error anymore in the grand scheme of things, because goals of for me to retire by 40, which is, we'll see if that's still even possible. Right now, I'm aiming for the for the stars and hoping to land in the clouds. But yeah, we don't have wiggle room as much because next 5 years we're aiming to get having family and kids and more other stuff. So it's taking risks is totally possible, but it needs to be more calculated.
Yeah. The biggest piece is like that. The life gets more complicated the older that you get.
Mm,
And unless you're single and still on a little island by yourself, those other things are going to be taken into consideration, specifically around finances. And
hmm
that's where it just becomes super difficult, especially if you're not aligned with that other person.
Holy
All
crud.
right. Do you want to jump onto some of your topics? We
Oh,
kind of railed right
yes.
through all of mine.
Yours are good though, man. Goodness. Okay. I'm gonna just kind of also add on to it, speaking of just kind of reverting back to our grit topic, but yeah, doing another side project is hard. And it's there's a very big blog post that I'll share it on here in the show notes, but it talked about how to become great at something. And let me find it so I can pull it up. The header was, I'm not sure if you shared it with me. I'm not sure if you remember the blog article, but how to be great is just to be good repetitively or repeatedly. And I had to find that one. But I felt so down on myself only because like I'm trying to give 100% every day, constantly reminding myself that if I'm feeling like a 30%, but I can give 30 of that percent fully, I know it'll be a good day. So I know I had some task items to hit for this project, and I only hit one of three, which sucked. But again, with all like life circumstances I had, and it was at least I was doing something good out of it. I was building instead of just being lulled. Like I was building other things around to help this project move forward. But finding the time, it is draining. It is hard, especially me having a significant other, which I never had when I was doing heavy side projects. Yeah, just balancing the time again and just forgetting how much time you don't have for yourself is super hard.
Have you been working on
And
these side projects at all in the morning, or when do you work on them?
so I've been bad at doing my morning miracle, which is another book we could reference down to show notes, but it was just I've been doing them at night and I know that hasn't been working, but oy, I have to do get better at that. So you sparked an idea with me, Nicholas. I got to revamp my whole entire schedule. But no, yeah, I that's where I need to figure out. And this is the non-part participation trophy type of thing. Is like, crap, I gotta readjust again. I gotta figure it out. I gotta figure out how to knock out some things and make sure I have my sanity back, you know? So, and just I just can't grind out like I was in my early 20s and just fun side note story about grinding out projects. I was I was working for an NFL team at the time as a year internship, and I was still heavily doing a podcast. So we were flying to Green Bay on for a Monday night game. I was it was a f- we were leaving on a Saturday morning, and on Friday night I just got a green light to interview this photographer I've been waiting for to interview. And said, "Hey, I'm in town in Berkeley. She lives in San Diego, Santa Barbara. She lives in Santa Barbara." And I was like, "Holy crud, can we make this happen?" And I used to do in-person interviews. We didn't have Zoom at the time. It's like, "Yeah, let's go." I was like, right after a 14-hour shift, I drove my butt all the way to Berkeley from San Jose. And I did the interview, drove back. So I woke up at 5 a.m. I didn't get back till 1 a.m. that day. So literally fell asleep 3 hours, woke up again for 5 a.m. to go back. So pretty much 21-hour like work day to do the whole thing and then travel to Green Bay and work for 7 days a week. And I was fine. Can't do that anymore.
Yeah, no, just to add some additional context, right? So, what was the
Yeah.
old podcast that you used to run?
So the old podcast, kind of new now, restarting it back up, was the Creator's Mind podcast. So I would interview photographers and content creators around the Bay Area and some other parts of the country, sharing stories and how they got into the art, and would shoot with them, would just dive in, small little photography tips, and just mainly just storytelling. And that was the podcast.
Is this still live?
It's still live.
Okay. Well, we'll throw that in the
Yeah.
show notes too then.
Podcast is still live, but I've not made any new content since I dove into work 2021, and has been non-active, but trying to revive it in a sense of a blog slash podcast now. But that's also the build is I've been working on as well on parallel to this. So that's why I was also just grinding out this week. So it's a lot. So
So I found
that's when it's
so
good.
I found the blog that you're talking about. So it's by
Ah,
Steph Smith, and it's called How to Be Great, Just Be Good Repeatedly.
yes.
Um, did you want to dive into that one more?
Oh, you can do it. Go for it. I feel like I'm talking way more on this episode than normal.
Oh my goodness. I haven't read this in a really long time, but
Well, it came out in 2019 as well.
yeah. But I mean the kind of the core of it all is it
Mm-hmm.
comes back down to consistency,
Mm-hmm.
right? And all you have to do is just move the ball 1% every single day, month, week, whatever it is, and eventually you'll get to where you want to get, right? I think that that's the core of all of this is there's so much focus on um a lot of things that just don't matter, or you're trying to like always hit a home run in a really short time frame. But when you
Mm-hmm.
look at a lot of really anything that's been created, whether it's projects, businesses, whatever it is, they're usually built over a long span of time. And that's where you have to realize that just being consistent during that time is what will get you to that end goal. I mean, I think about this a lot, even with this podcast, right? I'm not expecting, I'm expecting it to be just you and me, probably for the next like 20 episodes. And that's totally fine. It's way more important that we are actually doing it and just being consistent and pushing it out than it is
Yes.
about the likes, the views, the downloads, or any of the other metrics that I don't even know about. Um, None of that matters. And I've seen this like when I even tried starting my own YouTube channel. I failed. I tried being consistent daily. Daily vlogs are hard. Fell off, fell off super, super hard. And it was like just it's dead now, right? But
Mm-hmm.
maybe I need to change what that consistency is. Maybe I should just do it once a week or something.
Mm-hmm. Dude. And again, back in the athletic world, and just made me think about some of the athletes I have is like, what would is it talent or hard work that made them really good? And I just dissect some athletes that don't put in the hard work, but they're naturally talented, and that will lead them so far versus the people who are really talented, but also extremely hardworking, and they're just getting really far. And this is what kind of gets me like, all right, let's just hard work, but smarter, not burn yourself out in this type of environment because that's also not healthy, as we learned in our growing ages.
Actually, that kind of reminds me, and this might be a good way to kind of like wrap up this episode. So I was on another podcast a couple weeks ago, and their last question was this: hard work or luck? Which one matters more?
I would say I'm not a big luck type of individual, so I'm gonna say you you make your own luck by making hard work in a sense. I don't know, like when it comes to hard work, to me, it's just meeting people, setting yourself in a position to being ready instead of having to get ready when an opportunity comes. And that was to me is luck versus out of the blue, hey, you're here's a job, you want it, versus you meeting these people like, oh, I want this person because I remember talking to said person, or they did all this work and we know about it and it, but we were watching from afar, but now we're like we would like you on. And that's how I got my it's so funny, that's how I got my NFL internship. It was it was luck in the sense that I was taking care of one of the head AT's like kids, and but he trusted me because of one instance, and he could easily just said, "Oh, he's an athletic trainer," and that was it, and it has happened. But I was able to prove to the point where just by actions alone of hard work that he saw, like I would like him on my staff. And yes, it was lucky that fell in the blue, but I also wouldn't have gotten it if I didn't put in the work for it. Outside of outside of the optics of I'm just doing a good job because he's watching. No, I'm just doing a good job because I want to do a good job. And that got the ball rolling to say, hey, I like what you got. I'm like, I was already ready versus like getting ready. So yeah, that's the answer to my question. So I'm picking hard work. You?
Yeah, no, I think it's very similar. So I had responded with a different flavor of this quote that I'll say right now, but basically it's luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity, and preparation comes through
Mm,
hard work. So luck's the byproduct. I think
you're so elegant.
I mean it obviously I've thought about it, right? You hadn't thought about it
Mm-hmm.
prior, but yeah, it's like 99% hard work, and then when luck passes through, that's the 1% that all that hard work is.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess we could get lucky. We could win the lottery too, but there's that.
It's so the story of Tom Brady. Have you heard of Tom Brady? Like story of how he became Tom Brady?
He went to school in San Mateo and
No.
threw a ball.
Haha. Smart ass. He was drafted seventh round and he was backing up. Don't even remember the quarterback. He was a backup. Then he went down in the fourth week of the season and stepped up. But all the back time, he was just doing the proper preparation. So when that opportunity did come, that 1% of luck, he was already ready to keep the job. Even when the quarterback came back from injury, they still kept him in because he was doing the job. So yeah, you can say, oh, he got lucky because the first string quarterback got hurt. But if he didn't have, I'm gonna also add on, luck might get your foot in the door, but it's not gonna keep you in the room.
Oh, that's a good point too.
Yeah.
And on that note, I think we should wrap this one up. So thank you
Uh,
everyone for listening through all the way to this point. If you have, feel free to like, comment, subscribe below. And we're always looking for ideas of things to just kind of chat on. So if you have any ideas, feel free to comment in any of the threads. YouTube, what is that? YouTube comments?
comments. Yeah, comments.
Yeah. Can you actually leave comments on podcasts?
I think now you can.
Oh,
Or maybe reviews. Maybe that could spark it. I don't know. Maybe
okay.
a
Well, I'm sure
review. That'd be
you'll
great.
figure it out better than we can figure it out. So wherever you want to do it, throw it through. Or if you can't find it, nickandjustinshow.com. That works as well. Or is it Nick and Justin? It's just
You don't,
nickandjustin.com.
you don't even know the name of our own website.
I'm building it right now, dude. All
I'm
right.
definitely missing the pod, just saying, just so you know.
nickandjustin.com. Check it out, and we'll see you on the next one.
See y'all.